Hey, Atra.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How's your trip?
It's good.
Good.
I'm in my car, obviously, and the connection where I'm at is okay. So I just wanted to test it a few minutes early just to make sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Jill should be hopping on soon too.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good. How are you? How's everything going?
It's going good. It's a little cloudy over here.
Oh, that sucks. It's really nice here.
Hi,
Do
Yatra.
people register for this? Hi, Jill. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Bethany, can you guys hear me okay? My internet is always so laggy in here.
Yeah, we could hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I
Yep.
make you host?
And you can
Jill?
hear and see me okay? 'Cause
You're pausing on my end, Yatra,
you're
but
frozen.
I'm going to go into a conference room. One moment.
It's probably Yatra's because she's in a remote kind of area.
No worries. We got this.
Okay, are we good? Crap, I don't, is it my end? Because I think I have good service where I'm at.
Yeah, Yatra, it's you. You're the only one I see freezing.
Okay. Drop somewhere. Shoot. If it's now. Hello?
Yeah, you're spotty.
Okay, I'm moving. Am I still kind of spotty?
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe try taking your video off, see if that helps.
Okay. Is that any better?
I can hear you better. I don't know about
Oh,
anybody
okay.
else.
Yeah, we could hear you. I think
Okay.
Jill got booted. She should be back on. There she is.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear
Yep.
Woo! It is definitely my internet, Yatra, not yours.
Okay. Can you guys, is this frozen or not frozen?
You are not frozen.
Okay, cool. If I do, let me know and I'll go off video and I think it gets better.
Oh, perfect. Okay, very good. Well, Yatra, thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and get started just because we're trying to keep these truly just meaty half-hour sessions. Like these are bite-sized little value classes for you guys. I'm loving them so far. So thank you for all of you who have gotten on. And Yatra, if there's anybody on who doesn't know you, give us a little quick intro and yeah, who you are.
Okay, I am Yatra Mascarino at Elevate, obviously. My husband and I have a team. We have about 4 agents, an admin, 2 admins. So I've been in real estate, it's about 3 years now. I came from medical sales, was doing it part-time and then started doing it full-time, just took the plunge and I love it. So here I am.
Awesome. So Yatra, let me ask you this, since we're focusing on buyers consultations today,
Mhm.
are you guys more of a internet leads team, or do you cultivate your own business? What does that look like?
We really cultivate our own business. We don't do internet leads really that much at all. Most of my buyer leads, I will say, I've been doing a lot of open houses, are coming from open houses. And then, if Chris does a lot of the listings on our team. I love working with buyers. I do some listings, but so we'll try to get leads from our listings as well. But open houses has kind of been my jam lately.
Awesome. Well, let's start there actually, before I get into some of my other questions.
Okay.
What is if you are securing buyers from open houses, would you feel free to share, how much are you talking to the buyers? Do you let them just go through? Do you try and form a relationship? What kinds of things are you asking them at the open house?
Yeah, so I really just try to use the open house to build rapport, get to know them, and have them get to know me and my personality. And I don't hound them the minute they walk in. They walk in, I introduce myself and I say, take a look around. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And then as they're walking around, I just try to ask some questions. Where are you guys moving from? What's making you move? Just trying to get to know them and building that rapport. And from there, if they say, they just started looking, I'll ask them if they're looking at any other homes today. If they say, no, I don't have, yes or no, whatever the case is, I try to be a resource and say, there's some other homes in this area. If you want to take a look at those, I'd love to help you. And then a lot of times I will try to set up a buyer consultation with them based on how that conversation went, then and there. If not, I will follow up with everyone after the open house.
Awesome.
But I've had some luck scheduling buyer consultations for either later that day or the next day at the open house, which obviously turned out to be a way better situation.
That's huge. Are you scheduling your buyers consultations via Zoom, or do you meet them somewhere? What's that look like?
I always try to meet them. My number one goal is to get them to come to the office and meet them at the office. If they can't do that, maybe a cup of coffee or something like that, but face to face usually. And if they can't, if the phone is, the only way we're going to be able to do it before we go out to showings, I'll do the phone. But I've had really good success having them come into the office. And I think it just makes it more professional and just more real, like instead of, you look more as a consultant. If you're like, please come to my office so I can go over the process with you, introduce myself and how I help you find homes.
Awesome. So Yatra, they say that business or buyers consultations and listing appointments are the two greatest appointments that you could have in this business. I feel that so many agents have got away from consultations just because of our fast moving market. What are you doing to secure a buyer's consultation appointment?
Yes, and that is so key. I know, with the fast moving market, a lot of people are like, let's just get out to showings. We just got to go see the house. If that's the case, I say, let's meet before we go see the house, because I really want to go through the process with you. What I find is when you don't do a buyer consultation with a client, that's when they end up not being loyal to you and maybe using another agent. They're just kind of walking. There's no commitment there. But if you get them to sit down and do a buyer's consultation, they're looking at you as a professional, you're going over the process, and you're really setting expectations with them during that buyer consultation. The other thing that I use buyer consultations for is one, you can't assume that everybody knows how the market is. So it gives me the opportunity to really tell them what the market is like, where they're looking. And I use it to say, okay, do you know what an appraisal gap is? Do you know what an escalation clause is? Do you know what your upfront cost as a buyer is? So that when you're looking at homes, they kind of already have an idea what their offer is going to be looking like. They already know what their upfront costs are. So there's no surprises or anything like that.
That's awesome. I think, you never disappoint people if you can lay out the expectations in the beginning.
Yes. Yes.
That's-
And that's really what a buyer consultation is to like set those expectations for both of you. And then I just think it's such a better working relationship. And most of these buyers I'm finding, everybody assumes that they know, what they have to, what makes a good offer. But a lot of people don't know what an escalation clause is. And the worst thing you can do is your buyer finds a house that they love, and then you're explaining like, okay, we got to put an offer in. Do you want to do an escalation clause? Do you want to do an appraisal gap? And they're like, oh, I don't even know what any of that is. Whereas if you did it during the buyer consultation, they already have in their head, like, okay, we're going to put $10,000 aside for an appraisal gap, or we're going to make sure we do an escalation clause. We already know what we want to do for our earnest money. And another big key is talking to them about inspections and finding out where they lie. Like, are you going to be someone who wants to do an inspection for informational purposes only? Are you going to be looking for, what are you looking for out of an inspection? Because that's another thing that, once you get under contract and then you do the inspection, if you didn't set those expectations prior, it could really make a deal fall apart.
Absolutely. So how long would you say your consultation takes? Is it an hour? Is it a half hour? How much time do you block off for it?
Usually just 30 minutes, unless it's someone that has a lot of questions. Depends on the person too. Some people are just more analytical and want more information, and but some people kind of get what the market's like. You're just really going over the process with them, and it's an opportunity for them to get to know who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So
Can I add something to the buyer
Oh.
consult?
yes, Chris, thank you.
Just, so the other key piece to it, and Yatra may have said this too, though, is setting expectations around showings and availability.
Yes. We definitely during the buyer consultation will go through and really set that expectation where, I'm available from this time to this time. I have a showing assistant, or we have other people on our team if I'm not available that can help you, or that may be with you sometimes. So you might not always see me, and that helps because sometimes clients get a little weary if they're like, oh, why is, someone else coming to show me this house this time?
Absolutely. So if anybody's on this call or going to be watching the recording who's not really doing buyer consultations at the moment, if you could give me like a 30,000-foot view or like a skeleton of what you typically go over, what does it look like from start to end? Like in what order?
So it starts with, are you pre-approved? Going over the pre-approval process, making sure you have available some of your lenders that you work with that you can offer to them at that time. And then going over, and this happens so before you have the buyer consultation, you want to find out what areas they're looking in. That way you can prepare and you can show them this is the inventory in the areas that you're looking for, and then pulling the target market analysis from showing time to show them, and this is this is how many buyers are in that area. So kind of giving them an overview of the market so they understand when they see a house, they want to reach out to you right away to go take a look at it, and giving them that overview of the market. From there, I talk to them about the process and the upfront costs. So you'll want to make sure that you have money for your earnest money. You're going to have an appraisal cost, and you're going to have your inspection costs. And then talking to them, do you know what appraisal gap is? Do you know what escalation clauses, kind of going over the different terms that that you use to put offers together, and then setting the expectations around finding out what they're looking for, and getting that really descriptive, like, are you looking for a fixer up, or do you want something that's move-in ready? And the reason I do that is, and I explain to them, is when you send me houses, I'm going to be looking at them and vetting them for you, calling the agent, getting as much information so that we don't waste our time going to homes that might not fit your needs. And then, just from there, making sure you get the buyer agreement signed as well, and letting them know your loyalty to them, and then vice versa, their loyalty to you. So it's really just very informative so that you're prepared and you're just ready to go look at houses after that.
That's incredible. Do you have like an actual presentation you give them, or is it just a conversation?
We do, and you can make it through Command, which is, I believe, where we made our original one. And then some of the like the target market analysis and stuff, I really just started doing that to give people a better idea of the market. Because I feel like people think it's slowed down or it's still extremely crazy. It's just, it helps so that they know, like, okay, if I want to make an offer, I can't sit on it, or maybe in their area for their price range, they have a little bit more leeway.
For sure. Yatra, let me ask you this, in that section where you are showing them inventory and talking about the current market, will you pull things like homes are selling over list, like the list price to sale price ratio? Do you talk about that?
I do, definitely. And again, to set the expectation. And then, and it's not just me talking, I'm asking them questions. How comfortable are you with going over asking? And then finding out what their budget is and saying, like, okay, based on this and based on what the market looks like, are you comfortable looking at homes that are a little bit under your budget so that we can make a stronger offer? If a home becomes available, so that you can go over ask. But it's so that they know, and it's just that way they're not looking at homes that are over their budget, and you're putting in 20, 30 offers and they're not getting these houses. And it's because you didn't sit down at the buyer consultation and really, really consult with them what makes a good offer and how you can help them get a home.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask you prior to the consultation, you said you will ask areas before,
Yes.
just so you can pull the inventory. Are there any other must-have questions you ask prior to the buyer's consultation?
Really just the areas and their budget. And I will try to find out if they're pre-approved prior to sitting down so that they can get that started even before the buyer consultation. And then a lot of times, depending on how new they are to like if they literally just started yesterday, I might just say, when we sit down for the buyer consultation, I'll get you all my lender information and things like that. But areas and budget is probably one of the two biggest things that you want to find out so that you can prepare best for that meeting.
For sure. Something I'd like to point out, she just said, when we sit down for the buyer's consultation. So you aren't saying like, would you like to do this? It's when we sit down to go through this.
Yes. And I know it's just part of the process. Before we start looking at homes, I want to sit down and just kind of go over what that process looks like and what it looks like to buy a house in this market so that we can be better prepared when we're looking at homes.
For sure. So what would you say to the client who's like, no, I don't have time, I just want to get into this house?
I would, if that happens, one, I want to take a kind of a step back and ask myself if I built a relationship with that person. Because if they're just wanting to get in and see a house, they're probably talking to 20 other agents just getting in to see a house, right? So I also explain, and I ask them, are you working with any other agents? And can I, how can I earn the right to be your buyer's agent? And I tell them the importance of like, yeah, sure. Because I just had this come up at an open house where they say, well, we just really call the listing agent usually and go that like we've been looking forever. And that's literally what we do. And I explained to them, why the benefit of using just one agent. I'm going to be committed to you and you finding a home, and I'm negotiating on your behalf. Whereas if you're just calling the listing agent, you have someone that's kind of negotiating both sides there. But if they're like, I really don't have time, my work schedule doesn't allow for it, I'll say, can we just set aside 15 minutes at the showing before or after to really go over what that process looks like? Because you don't want to skip out on the expectations.
That's perfect. Perfect. Gosh, there was something I wanted to ask you on the tip of my tongue when you had said that. This isn't necessarily in the consultation, but it might come up. Buyers are terrified with the interest rates. So when you're talking about lenders and they say, oh, I might end up waiting for rates to come down, or I'm going to wait to see what happens. What are you saying to them right now?
So I go Matt Sheffy did a great training and made a great point where, all the buyers that are saying they're waiting for rates to come down, they're sitting on the sidelines. So when rates go down, they're all going to be jumping back in. And that's when we're going to be back into these big multiple offer situations. And some houses are already going into multiple offers, but it might cost you more to wait than to just buy the house right now. And depending on, how long do you plan on being in this home? If it's going to be their forever home or 5 years, that makes a big difference in, how you consult with them. But it's explaining to them that, yeah, there's a lot of people that feel like they're going to wait until rates come down. So that's just going to make it more competitive when the rates come down. Whereas right now you could probably get a house, and it could be less affordable, and you can always refinance. And the lenders that I'm going to provide you with, most of them you can refinance without a charge. So I would rather go the route of buying now and refinancing when the rates come down.
That's perfect. Another question I had for you, because I really admire the time you spend with these buyers in the beginning, whether it was a consultation prior to meeting or it's at that showing. What would you say your percentages are of meeting with somebody and they do in fact end up purchasing with you? Do you know what that ratio is?
I don't, but it's pretty high. Like if I do that buyer's consultation, I pretty much I'm going to end up working with them because it just sets you apart. They're not just using you to get into a house, where in that situation where they're like, nah, I just want to go see a house. You're really just opening a door for them. So I feel like when I do the buyer consultation, unless they decide they're not going to buy, I usually get them as a buyer.
Yep.
Yeah, it's probably in the 90, high 90 percentile.
And I have, and Chris, you can attest to this. I feel like when I do it and I set out all the expectations for, offers and stuff, I'm able to put together way better offers because they already know going into the process what their offer is going to look like, and they're prepared for it. They know, so I feel like I'm getting them a home quicker that way too.
Yes.
Yeah, and keep in mind the
ahead, Chris.
goal. One of the other goals of all this too is we don't want to be showing buyers 20, 30 houses, right? We want to show them as few houses as we can, so that we can preserve our time. And that's what happens with this, how Yatra's explaining it, and being able to put together those strong offers right from the rip. So we're not missing out, losing out, and showing 20 houses.
Without a doubt. I've heard people say, if I'm showing somebody 20 plus houses, like I'm doing something wrong.
I feel like if you're doing that, you didn't do your job correctly, because if you really sit down and find out what they want, and you'll always get a buyer that's going to send you, I want to go look at this 2-bedroom house. And you're like, but you said you needed 4 bedrooms. And it can help that conversation so much better when you're like, do you really want to waste your time looking at this house? It doesn't fit your needs. Remember, you said you needed 2 extra bedrooms for your, going back to, just like in a listing appointment, literally going back to their goals and reminding them, because you don't want to be driving around to 30,000 houses, and truthfully, they don't either. And that's when they start getting discouraged and things like that.
Yeah. So I love that you have spoke so much into expectations and teaching them what they're going to face when submitting an offer. I'm curious, do you guys have an actual buying power checklist, or do you just have that conversation with them?
I don't, but that's a great idea. But it really is. That's awesome. But no, I have that conversation with them. I kind of go down the line of all the things that can make up an offer that you can or you can't do. And I'm asking them, are you comfortable with an appraisal gap? Do you have the extra money for it? An escalation clause, I explain, why it's so beneficial. And then same with inspections. I get their feel for what's important to them in an inspection. But I also at that point, I'm like, we're not going to, typically with inspections, you don't want to nitpick little things. Some of those are the costs of being a homeowner, whereas these are the things that we're really truly looking for, the big ticket items. So it's just gauging all of that and finding out, what they're going to be most comfortable with. And it kind of helps you as an agent too, to kind of know what you're going to be walking into with that client.
Absolutely. I think setting the expectations around inspections is so, so important.
Yes.
And all the listing agents on this call are going to love to hear you say that too. It's, when we think about it, it is not to nickel and dime the seller, like you said.
No.
It's, is there anything so dramatic that has changed my want to buy this home that I didn't see when I went through it?
Yes. And setting that, like, I think some new buyers don't and I will show, like, in an inspection report, things are going to come up. We're probably going to have 10 pages of things, but are those things that big, and it's really like setting that expectation that things will come up. We're looking for things that, like you said, are going to cause you to maybe question, is this house, like, should we purchase the house or not?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I open it up, if anybody else has questions, Yatra, I'm going to leave you with 2 rapid fire. One, just what advice would you give to somebody who's not doing buyer consultations at all? And then any good book or podcast you would recommend.
Oh, so my advice, like, if you're not doing buyer consultations, I will tell you, like, when I don't do buyer consultations, I have way more trouble through the transaction. My transactions are just way smoother and my relationships are stronger when I do buyer consultations. And then good podcasts, or books. Shoot, Chris, do you want to throw one in there? I can't, my mind is like completely going blank right now.
It's okay.
Podcasts, the 200% Life is awesome. I've been listening to Bigger Pockets. The One Thing, I don't know if everybody saw the new co-host. She's awesome. So I'm excited to actually listen to that one again.
I didn't know they got a new co-host.
Yes. And I'm drawing a blank on her name. She's out of California. You'd know her if you heard her name. I'm just drawing a complete blank.
That's good to know. I haven't listened to that in a while. You said Bigger Pockets. Somebody actually, I think it was Brian, my husband, he listens to Brandon Turner, A Better Life. He's an investor. That's a great one I just started listening to, but okay, I will open up the floor. If anybody has any questions for Yatra or even any pushbacks they're getting from buyers, something they can't overcome. If you have any questions, please add in the chat or unmute yourself. We would love to answer for you. I know it's always the, do I have one? And it is okay if we don't. Yatra, I feel like you had so much value to give. This was huge. And I would really encourage everybody who's on live now or watching this later, take the time to meet. You said, even if it's 15 minutes before or after the showing, it's huge in this market. And they keep saying, we're moving from a fast paced to a skill-based market. Well, now we're kind of both. It's still fast and you still need the skills. And when people are just jumping from agent to agent and just want in a home, like, this is what is absolutely going to set you apart. Even if you're new, you can learn how to have this consultation. You don't need to know everything about real estate to be great at this. So.
No. And if anybody has any questions or just wants to talk more about it, feel free. I'm an open book to call me. And if there's anybody new that has not done a buyer consultation and wants to sit in on one, reach out to me. And the next time I have one, I'd be happy to have you shadow me. You
are awesome. Thank you so much, Yatra.
Thank you.
And special shout out to the Mascarinos. You guys are on vacation and you agree?
I am. Chris is at home.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
I'm holding the fort down. One thing I'll add is grab a partner and role play it, because that's just going to help you with the conversation so much better. So, yeah.
And if you want a partner to role play it with, I'm always looking for, like, let's role play it together. I'd love to.
You're awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and you guys have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.